Evening all. Now that is a work in progress. Okay. I put the tree up. I've got another tree in the lounge. And I've said to my sons, come on, let's decorate the Christmas trees in the house. Be a father-son bonding moment. Come on. And their reply was, Dad, can we play Roblox? Can I watch Dan TDM? So, I'm going to get them to work on this. We'll work on it. And by the time I do my next video, it'll be all whistles and bells. Okay. But anyway, tonight's video is called Sargon Humbugged. And this is, yes, about Sargon of Akkad being deplatformed, is it? Is that right? He's been booted off Patreon in a contrived set of circumstances, which don't really hold water when examined. And we've all seen the hypocrisy. I've watched a lot of videos on this subject from Sargon himself, Dave Cullen, YouTuber Law, that was a good one, Sticks and Hammer, a few other people. I've spoken to a couple of people on the deep law about this. And they were all outraged, we're all annoyed as anything, particularly when the CEO of Patreon was on the Rubin Report saying that they would never treat anybody like this. They would never boot somebody off Patreon just for their opinions or perhaps their association. It had to be related to, fundraising, being them violating the terms and conditions on Patreon, not anywhere else. And they've completely gone against that and said, oh, no. Those rules that we put up that everybody has to sign and everybody has to read, no. They're not the real rules. The real rules are these ones over here that we keep secret and that we change whenever we feel like it. Okay. And this is what the left does. They have strategically, they're so much better than everybody else. We have this loose coalition between centrists, conservatives, and libertarians. We're a loose coalition. We're all banded together because we all believe in a lot of freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, and our rights and liberties as human beings in a Western civilization. And we are broadly anti the progressive left and the far left. Okay, but they're better tacticians than us because they keep outmaneuvering the coalition at every turn. You look at it, right? They've got the media, they've got academic institutions, they have they've got the news, they've got the arts, and in a move that I think a lot of us found surprising, suddenly they're in corporations. They've gone deeper. They've not only embedded themselves in political systems, not just in elected governments, but in the civil service. They're in there as well. And would you believe it? They're starting to make inroads in mainstream right-wing parties. They're getting their claws in everywhere. And they're dismantling all our bits of civilization, all our bits that hold us together, whether that is the values, our bill of rights, our legal systems, our traditions, but also our families, even our very bodies. They're attacking and dismantling. They're getting so good at it because their tactics are better. And why are their tactics better? Because for them, right, politics is everything. Okay, when Anita Sarkeesian said everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is problematic, and you have to point it out all of the time, that's not hyperbole. That is actually what she and everybody else on the progressive, the far left do. They don't have hobbies. I have this theory that the further left you go, the fewer hobbies you have because hobbies become problematic. Any pastime or enjoyment you have, they can find a problem with it. Why? It's harmful to either the environment or to other human beings or to their sense of morality. They work at this full time. I know, I witnessed them. Ever since my days at university, I've seen how the far left operate, and they become almost puritanical and monastic about their political ideology. All the art that they consume is judged by on their politics. All the art that they consume is hard left-wing politics. Everything. Books, movies, TV, mass media, online media, all designed that way. And then when they've finished consuming that art, they form groups to talk about it, and then they look at everything else that's outside of that left-wing bubble, and they declare it a problem for some reason. If it's a problem, there must be a cure, and if there's a cure, they will find it and implement it. And they do this 24/7. We don't. I don't, certainly. I mean, I make these videos occasionally, but I'm not a full-time political activist. I switch off. I have my hobbies. I have my wife. I have my sons, right? I've got their lives, and now I just lead a normal life. Okay, so I switch off from politics a lot of the time, but they don't, and they never do. And that's why they think of strategies while we're sleeping. Okay, they think of the tactics, and they have their hit list, and they've got their things. They're working out what's the next thing they're going to dismantle, while we're just sitting around having a beer, putting our feet up, watching a box set, playing a game. Okay, they don't do these things unless there's a political angle, and so that no wonder they're out maneuvering us. And here's where I think the situation with Sargon went, because I think he honestly thought that Patreon would not turn on him this way, that the takedown, that he possibly had time, or he'd have advance warning that this was going to happen. No, they strike without warning. And 3 people got taken down at once. James Allsop, who almost nobody had really heard of. I mean, I heard the name, and my first thought was, hang on, is he the ex-BNP guy? I just don't know enough about him. I don't follow him. I think he's the ex-BNP guy. But anyway, he's not the main target. Neither is Milo Yiannopoulos, who was deplatformed off most social media some time ago. And he's being deplatformed because of a one-time association with the Proud Boys, another group who I don't know that much about. I mean, it's Gavin McInnes's mob, and I haven't made up my mind about Gavin McInnes. I like some of his stuff, but I don't know. Are they ethno-nationalists? I just don't know. I don't know enough about it, and I just don't have the time to go into the whole history of the Proud Boys. It doesn't seem like my cup of tea, so I don't invest a lot of time looking into them. I just am aware of who they are, but I don't think Milo is the chief target. I think it was all about Sargon. I think that this maneuver was designed to take down Sargon, but they needed a couple of other people in there as well to make it justified. Think about it. James Allsop, ex-BNP. Okay, so you can tar him and say, he's a Nazi, he's a fascist, so we can tar him. And then we've got Milo Yiannopoulos, who popularised the term the alt-right in his days of working at Breitbart. Even though Milo has since disavowed himself of that, particularly when they started going down the white ethno-nationalism route, Milo disavowed himself of that. That doesn't matter. So you've got James Allsop, alt-right, Milo Yiannopoulos tainted with the alt-right, and Sargon, who one time debated the alt-right, and he's debated Richard Spencer. You would think the left would go, okay, maybe we got Sargon read or wrong if he's going that much against the alt-right. No. The tactic was always to get Sargon and use the other two as a kind of a linking bridge to Sargon. If you can get Allsop because he's alt-right, then you can get Milo because he associated with alt-right, and Sargon used to knock around with Milo a few times a few years ago, and so he's guilt by association. But because Sargon's profile has gone up, they needed some excuse to take him down. And what Patreon did was break their own rules in doing this. Okay, but they're confident because this is part of the tactic. They're confident of being able to break their own rules because, well, what's one little guy that depends on a Patreon feed going to do back to them? Okay, they're a big company. They've got the smart, fancy lawyers, and they're gambling. That they can break their own rules and violate the terms and conditions because things are a two-way process. People forget this. Okay, we have to sign up to their terms and conditions, but they have a set of responsibilities in return. And by inventing whole new rules that they didn't tell anybody about until they said they were broken, And I mean the kind of the rules say that you're not allowed to say and do certain things on Patreon. And when the CEO of Patreon went on the Rubin report, he said, no, we're never going to stifle free speech or what you've said somewhere else on some other platform. But they've changed that rule. So anything you've ever said anywhere and it's logged, they will use it against you. And is this them breaking the law or they're breaking contract? Well, my answer to that is let's get together and take them to court. I think it takes somebody to take to court now, and that's a big undertaking. And you'll need money and you'll need fancy lawyers. But I've got some counter strategy to the left I want to share with you. Okay, so we've established that the left are very tactical. So what can we do? Well, first of all, we adopt the mantra, what we have, we hold. And, we have to defend vehemently our positions. And I know some libertarians and ANCAPs are going to hate this, but we get organised a bit better. This is what Sargon was trying to do when creating the liberalists, but the liberalists got infiltrated by a few lefties, undermined, and it can either be a circle jerk or it can be, this isn't liberal at all. What's it doing on here? It's not organised enough. We're going to have to get organised. That's not the same as collectivising. Okay, this isn't status. I hate that word anyway. But what we need to do is you need to support one another on this because we're being taken down one by one. They've got the control of everything. They've got control of media. They've got control of the academic side. They've got control of the arts, and they've got control of big tech. And there's another thing that the left did that completely outmaneuvered the rest of us. Is who expected that they were going to get their claws into the corporate world? Yeah, but they have, because what happened years ago when they did the Occupy Wall Street and Occupy the City of London and the anti-capitalist demonstrations. See, what happened there was that they tried to get agitated on the street and they tried to harass city workers from going into their places of work. And the optics were that the general public actually felt more sympathy for the office workers. They were just trying to get to work. They're just ordinary people, just normies trying to get to work. And here you had these twats with V for Vendetta masks, very corporate image, trying to, sort of get in their way and harass them. And that failed. The anti-capitalist Occupy Wall Street stuff eventually failed. And somewhere along the line said, rather than harass the corporations, how about we get a toehold in them and change the corporations to suit us more? And how do you do that? Well, eventually they want to smash the capitalist system, but the tactics are, well, they can't go for that right away. What they can do is change the culture within those corporations to say the little man, the independent, he bad, he white man bad. You need more diversity and quotas, and so we're going to have human resource officers. It's funny, isn't it? After the failure of the Occupy Wall Street and Occupy London anti-capitalist protests, almost immediately after that came the idea of unconscious bias tests, which are being rolled out all across the corporate world, which everybody, HR departments, very keen on. They're keen on diversity hires now. Coincidence? There's tactics, isn't it? They tried a frontal assault on big capitalist corporations. That failed, so they're going round the flank. There's a Trojan horse that they've put in there. And the same in the media, changing everything you love. Right, they destroyed Doctor Who, they've destroyed Star Trek, they've destroyed Star Wars, okay? And what a surprise, everybody else going, I can't stand this anymore. I'm going off to watch, I don't know, Lord of the Rings. That was great, wasn't it? Great book, great trilogy of films, the Hobbit as well. There's a whole, Middle-earth saga. No, apparently orcs are racist, so you can't even enjoy that. That's a tactical move. They looked around, casting, where's the hammer going to fall next? They worked this out, keeping us off balance, okay? So we've got to organise, and that means getting in lawyers. Let's protect our asses. Let's only make deals with online finance services and on media platforms online if we know they're not going to turn on us. We've got to, you've got to look out for the small print. If we do go into a relationship with an organization like Patreon, we got to know where they're going to cut, where they're going to be weak on, and plan for it in advance. Okay, got to plan for these things. Gab didn't plan. Sargon didn't plan. What happens if the left get in and try and yank the chain, pull the rug out from underneath us, and leave us stranded and deplatformed? Okay, you've got to do this. And we've got to make alliances. It's no good, you and me and everybody else there in this kind of free-thinking coalition, just all patting each other on the back saying, we can do it. We're all good people. We will just stick together and we'll, that's worthy in itself. But we've got to get bigger friends in high places. And this is where I think we can fight back against the left. You see, two ways we can think about this. There's one strategy where we say, okay, well, at some point the left are going to overreach. They're going to overreach and they're going to alienate the normies. And when the normies turn away from them, that's when we counterattack. Okay, and there's some merit to that argument that at some point, let's say in mainstream media, that the ratings go so low that cinema attendances get so low, comic book sales and book sales plummet to the point where nobody's buying anything, nobody's consuming the mainstream media product, and they become financially ruined. But they've planned for that. See, they've planned for losses in the short to medium term because it's the long term. The long term is you'll coming back because we'll have the only product that's available. Very socialist, isn't it? The one product that you can have. And they're prepared to take hits, but they're prepared for a few Star Wars films to fail. They're prepared for a couple of seasons of Discovery to fail. They're prepared for Doctor Who to fail for a couple of seasons because they know you'll come crawling back at some point. So yes, that's a risk strategy to just let the left overreach itself and let it fail, and so they become bankrupt. The other way is a divide and conquer approach. So we've got to find the fissures that exist in the left. I mean, one of the things is the struggle between the TERFs and the trans rights activists. And here is now a good time to, you can play one side off against the other. But hear me out. What if somebody in the centre who is a free speech advocate starts befriending a TERF and say, okay, case example, you find somebody like a Lacey Green, somebody who's a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more reasonable when dealing with people who normally disagree with them, and say, okay, we got something in common. We think these trans rights activists are going too far. I'd like to help you. And you have to power up. You have to find the weaknesses. Okay, you got to start working on red pilling people. Okay, and I know a TERF is a tough one to red pill. Maybe they'll need a whole bottle of the stuff. But think about it. There are fissures on their side, and we're not doing enough to exploit those fissures. The other thing is that at the moment, these big tech corporations are acting with impunity because they fear no one. There's no one to fear. So we've got to find the thing that they are frightened of. Well, they're frightened of losing money, but they're planned for that. They're planned for a few hits. Remember how I was saying that Twitter was making huge losses over the years? And yet they're still there. Okay, it still exists. It's still going. Okay, so we can't starve them out that way. But we need... I said this, I don't know if Sargon ever read it or is aware of my existence, but I wrote to him some time ago saying, you're in a position now to aim upwards. You've got a fan base. You now need friends in high places. And I'm glad to see, I can't claim credit that I've inspired him because I don't know if he knows I exist. But he's doing that kind of thing by interviewing Steve Bannon, by interviewing Brendan O'Neill and Andrew Doyle. He's looking upwards. He's looking for friends in high places. He needs to go higher, because maybe there's a way we can find people in the political system that are sympathetic enough. It's a start. We got to find people. We got to find the millionaires who would take our side. We all say, "Oh, please, Elon Musk, come to our rescue." We can't put all our eggs in, pardon me, in his basket, because he might get taken down. They're already working. The left are already working on plans of taking Elon Musk down. So we need a few. Find them. Go out there into the world. Find your millionaires who have just had enough of the political correct stuff. Find your members of parliament or your members of Congress who are fed up with this stuff. Start making alliances, not just in the YouTuber community, not just in the skeptic community, or wherever you originally hailed from. Okay, stop. Your peers are great. They're going to give you the back rubs and the pats on the back and all that. But we need to start aiming higher. We need to divide the left against itself, because they are tactically running rings around us. Okay, and on that bombshell, I will bid you good night. Leave your comments down below. Have you got any tactics or advice on how we can battle the left and the things we should be thinking about? Because I'd be genuinely interested in hearing different opinions on that. But anyway, my name's Nick, and I will see you online somewhere soon. Yeah, that's going to look a lot better next video. Okay, good night.